We are a group of friends, bound by our appreciation for liberty and good podcasting. Free-minded thinkers from all walks of life, our values come together with one accord to discuss the common culture and news of the day, along with whatever random crap is going on in our lives. Welcome to the Union of the Unknowns. Hello and welcome once again to the Union of the Unknowns. I am your host tonight, Keel Thor, and tonight we have a very special episode. It is our final episode of the Union of the Unknowns for 2022. Yay! Our topic tonight will be paranormal investigations and eliminations. No, that's Ghostbusters. Tonight we are talking about, we're going to be sharing ghost stories. With me are the unknowns. We've got Jackie, the Atlantic Connector. We have Ashley, Think, Change, Repeat. And I would like to welcome Jackie's fashion stylist, Candace Miller. Yay. We've also got our old pal, Terry from the Canary.
Good evening.
And so tonight, I want to talk about the paranormal. I want to be sharing personal experiences that we've had and waxing philosophical about the grander spirit realm. So who would like to go first and kind of kick us off here? Or I could do that.
Why don't you go first, Keel?
All right, fine. So let's see. I have the one story that I cannot deny. I'm just going to put it out there. This is what convinces me, and I'm a pretty skeptical guy. People have been listening to us for a while. You know, the rest of these nut jobs call me the normie. So I'm a skeptical guy. I don't buy everything that I hear, but I know what I see, and I believe what I can, wrap my head around. So when I was in middle school, I had a dream that, and it's not that kind of dream, Jackie. It's it was kind of a mundane dream. Usually my dreams are pretty wacky, like flying around and getting chased by bears and shooting laser beams out of my eyes. But this dream stuck out for me at the time because it was kind of normal. There was just kind of a scene that I recall. I remember I was standing and there was like a circle of chairs around me, or a half circle of chairs. And there was people in this room that I was in, and there was kind of an orange light, I remember, kind of just filtering through the room. And there was an Asian person, Asian guy. I was probably 13 at the time, so he was around the same age. I remember this kid was to my left, and I didn't recognize him. It wasn't somebody I knew from the real world, but I recognized that he was Asian. And there was other people kind of milling around, and I remember I was standing there, had my hands up, and I was trying to quiet everybody down because I was trying to explain to them the rules of a game. And that's all I remember from that dream. But it wasn't crazy. There was no wackiness going on. And I don't know, a few weeks later, a friend of mine invited me to a lock-in, like an stay overnight thing at his church. And so I said, sure. And so, it's the kind of thing you stay overnight at the church, all the kids are there, you have pizza and, Coke, and you stay up all night and run around in the church. So I go to this church, and it's just like I described. There's pizza, kids are running around. The night progresses on, and everybody had gotten together to play this game. They called it was called Sit on Me. I remember that. I don't remember the rules, but everybody sat in a circle of chairs, and I don't remember how it worked, but you pick somebody and they stand up and they walk a certain number of people over to the right or left and sit down, and then another person gets picked. And in the end, everybody's kind of sitting on each other on a big row, and then everybody laughs, and that's the end of the game. So we finished this game, and I thought, hey, I know a game we could play outside. It's a hide and seek kind of game, but it's not just hide and seek. And so everybody's kind of chitty chatting, and I stood up, and time kind of froze at that moment because I was standing there. The ceiling of this big kind of rompus room that everybody was hanging out in, the ceiling was covered by an orange like parachute, just part of the decoration. So light was coming down through this orange parachute, and there was orange light everywhere. And I'm standing on one side of this circle of chairs, and one of the kids, one of the kids from the church who was friends with my friend that we'd been hanging out that night, was this Asian kid. He was standing to my left, and there was all the people were had gotten up and were milling around from the end of the game that we just played. And I stood up, and I was going to get everybody's attention to describe the rules to this game that I wanted to play next. And so I raised my hands, and while this was going on, my mind is just flipping out, because I'm thinking, holy shit, I dreamt this exact moment weeks ago, and what the fuck is going on here?
Wow, deja vu.
I mean,
that's premonition. That's a premonition.
It was way too specific. I had never been to this church. I'd never met these people. I'd never been in that room. Mm-hmm. I'd never played this game where you sit on people with a row of circle of chairs or anything. The hairs on the back of my neck are starting to stand up right now, remembering this in such great detail. But I mean, it was mind blowing. And I don't remember talking at that. Like there are times in my life when I've had to get up in front of people and speak, and I just lose it because I it's like stage fright or whatever. But it was kind of like this, that it was kind of like that at the time. Like my mind had left. I was so wrapped up thinking about this deja vu that I was experiencing, but I was still talking and doing the stuff that I was needed to be doing. And I don't remember how that moment turned out anymore, but it blew my mind. And the whole rest of the evening, I was just dwelling on it to myself. But it was crazy. I've never forgotten that. And I dreamt that moment at least weeks. I'm not exactly sure what the time frame was in between, but I dreamt it exactly as it happened, before it happened. And there was no way for me to have known any of that stuff could have ever occurred.
Yeah,
but
it's a cracker.
I have another story that's not quite that dramatic, but anyway, that's the one I always come back to.
Keel, tell us the other story. Why
not? I'll get somebody else.
No, Keel, I
mean,
can
we're
tell
all
you
just like, listen.
That's quite a common experience. I've heard that quite a few times. And in fact, I worked with someone who'd had precognitive dreams a few times in his life, not every week, but several times, including where he was at a football match, and it was a soccer match for you Americans, and he remembered this dream that he'd had a week or so ago, and he said, "Oh, I know what's going to happen. He's going to pass to him, and he's going to do this, and the ball will go here, and they'll score like this." And it turned out exactly the way he described it because he dreamt it. So yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, I've had other dreams that were just a little taste of that, like kind of like I dreamt an emotion or something related to a person, and then something happened to that person shortly afterwards that would have pulled that emotion out of me like naturally. But anyway, that was the big one for me. Hey, Stella. We've got Stella on now.
Hello.
To add to the mix.
Oh,
hello. I think dreams do give you a sort of gateway to that kind of other realm. People often talk about when their loved ones have died, they'll see them again in a dream that seems realer than real. sort of come back to give them a message or something.
Yes. Yeah, because they say that the dream world is actually the true world, and this world is the dream world.
Kind of
Yeah.
like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't put a whole lot of faith in like premonition dreams, but I can't, I don't discredit that kind of concept because I know I've experienced it myself. But
Mhm.
you kind of have to, like, I've had dreams where I meet, people that have passed away or pets that have passed away and stuff like that.
You met pets that have passed away?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like what kind of pet have you? Like a hamster or gerbil? Did it start running across your face in your
No.
dreams or something? Like
I
what
grew up-
happened?
I grew up with dogs.
Is this like pet? So did I. But is this like Pet Cemetery where like you bury them and then all of a sudden later on they come back and they're like,
No, I'm
they're
just
like, for that time that you spanked me on my booty.
no, I'm just
Killing you now.
I'm talking about, you have a dog that you're really connected to, and then
Yeah.
years later you have a dream and the dog is there and you comes up and sits next to you and you pat him on the back,
That would be
Mhm.
nice.
give him a little scritch behind the ear, a little scratch.
I had dreams like that. Actually, all three of my kids, I dreamt of them before they were born, exactly how they looked and everything, and exactly
Really?
how they, yeah.
Fantastic.
Mariah, my oldest daughter, she was floating in the air, and I was reaching up to the sky, and I pulled her out, and she looked exactly in my dream when she was born, exactly. And then my daughter Alina, my middle daughter, I dreamt of her when she was like older, and we were in the Bahamas, and she was sitting on my lap, and she has pigtails. I have a picture of that dream in real time, in a picture when we went to the Bahamas, and her with pigtails, same hair color. I mean, exactly. And this is before I even knew if I was having a boy or a girl. She
Wow.
came out exactly like that dream is how she looks. I had that picture. And my son, I dreamt of him before he was born, in like the cradle, the little bassinet. And I have that picture of him in the bassinet of the same dream that I had before he was born.
Wow.
So yeah.
Did that give you
Those
like
are-
chills on top of your head, and back, and stuff like that? And you're like your arms and stuff, and you're just like, wow, this is crazy.
I even
I've
dreamt of
heard
my
that. I've
nephew.
heard that a few times as well. But that's
Yeah.
that's not that common. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. I've
I
dreamt
remember this
of
one.
like crashes
I
I was
listened to a
gonna
lot.
have that ended up
I listen-
happening in my 20s.
Yeah, sorry, I listen to a lot of podcasts about paranormal stuff, and there was a story exactly like that. Someone saw this face floating above them in a dream, or kind of like a waking dream, and then years later she was talking about it with her daughter, and then she suddenly realized, oh, it was you I saw. She didn't actually make a connection until that point. So yeah, she'd seen her daughter years before she
Yeah.
was born.
I even met like a boyfriend that I dated for 3 years. Before I met him, I saw him in a dream. Jackie, that was Anthony. I think I told you, Jackie. Remember? I think when you were at my salon, I told you the story.
Yeah, go for it.
No, the story where I dreamt of Anthony the first night, and then another guy the second night. And I was being so silly when I woke up the second night, and I was like, oh no, God, I said, I want the guy with the tattoos. And sure enough, 3 months later, he showed up. That was Anthony. And I was joking. I should have picked the other one, because of course we all know that I'm not good at picking.
Yeah.
I'm not.
That's why
It's always easy in hindsight, isn't it?
If I would have known it was going to be something real, I definitely would have picked the second one. It was just the first dream was more fun. That's why I was like, oh, stupid.
I've got a couple of dream
Yeah.
stories I could spill.
Yeah.
go for it, Stella.
Yeah, sure.
I've had a few actually. but I'll just quickly run over 3. One is I've met death in a dream. That was very freaky. There was no doubt it was death. And the weird thing was that it picked me out of a crowd and pointed straight at me, and it called my name, but it used my maiden name, and I was married at the time, so I thought that was a little odd. So I don't know. I don't really know what that was about. I could surmise what it was about, but anyway, moving on. I dreamt about a dog fight. I had 3 dogs at the time. There was 3 combined dogs in a yard. They weren't all mine. But I was there on my own one day, and I had dreamt this dog fight, and I saw Sam, our Staffordshire Terrier, sitting there just like with an artery bleeding out of his leg, blurp, blurp, blurp sort of thing in my dream. And then there was a dog fight. It wasn't long after that, I don't know when. The 3 dogs got into it. They mostly got on, but occasionally they didn't. And of course, I was there on my own in the backyard trying to separate an Australian Bull Terrier, a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and another thing that had mostly Bull Terrier in it. So yeah, that's not easy. Bull Terrier's mouth. So anyway, I did manage to separate them and sort of put one in the house and one in another place and one in another place, and it looked like a crime scene, like a murder scene when I went in, because all his blood was everywhere. But and there was Sam sitting in the backyard, exactly as I'd seen him in my dream, with blood pumping out of his artery. So that was kind of weird. He was okay. But the last one was.
Wait, hold on a second. Wait, you can't just go by that.
Blood spurting out of an artery.
Survived that? Was this a dog that survived that?
Yeah. He just took him to the.
He survived it.
His owner came home not long after and went, oh shit, and he took him to the vet and got him stitched up, and it was fine.
Okay, and wait, hold on a second. I missed this. How? Because you went by this so quickly. How did he get hurt? And I'm drunk, allegedly.
Okay.
Maybe not.
So it's
Who
not all
knows?
my
I mean,
fault.
that's just all subjective.
Forever.
Yeah. Anyways,
It
so
was a
how
dog
did the
fight.
dog get hurt?
It was a dog fight.
Oh, yeah, I've been in one of those.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there was 3 dogs in the backyard that normally get on really well, but every now and
And
then
you
they would
broke
have a
them
fight.
apart.
Yeah, I had no choice. I was the
How
only
did
one
you
there.
break them apart?
Just with, trying to do exactly what you shouldn't do and stick your hands in and try to grab collars.
Oh
things
yeah,
like
that's
that.
how I got bit for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I had to look for somebody's finger because I was there at the scene of when this guy's finger got bitten by a dog, with him doing exactly that.
Wow.
That was fun.
No. Okay. And then what was the other experience? Sorry, Stella.
That's okay. That's all right. I'll try to speak. I'm in a bit of a.
No, it's
I've just
okay.
been
We
outside
have.
working and
No,
having
don't
to
worry about it. Take your time.
All right. So the last one was when I don't know why I dreamt about this rock star, like very famous rock star. So here's the dream. It was very short. I was in this big hall. There was a massive crowd, and it was all like. And the band was on stage, but he was not quite on stage yet, and he was like to the right-hand side of the stage, looking at the stage. And I was there also for some reason. And it was like we were separate from the crowd. It was just him and me, and he was trying to go through this door that was just this bizarre door on the side of the stage. And I just, like, he's going, I can't do it. I've got to go. I'm just going, no, man, you got to get up there and play. You got a concert to do. No, I can't do it. I've got to go. And like I was basically holding him by the arms. He was opening this door, and this door led to this just black, empty space. It wasn't even a room or a hall or anything. It was just this blackness. And he was
You were
trying to go.
leading him to the pit of hell. Is basically what was happening.
No, I wasn't leading him there. I was trying to stop him from going through the door.
Oh, okay.
Because he needed to get up on stage and do his concert, but he wanted to go through the door. He didn't want to know about doing the concert. I'm just going, no, man, don't go. It's like I knew it was going to be a bad thing if you went through that door. And
so it was like the concert was Christ and the door was hell, pretty much. Not saying that's really what it was, but kind of like, when you have to choose, that's all.
Could be. Well, I mean, everyone's got
that's
their
my
own...
perception. Not everyone's going to think that. It's okay, but that's my perception, and I'm not telling anybody else they need to think the same thing.
Well, I have to say that, everybody thinks that heaven is the gates to heaven. Actually, it's a door to heaven, because I've seen it numerous times.
Doors Doors are coming up
It's a
quite
door.
a lot, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
a
look,
door.
I'll just finish this.
Story.
Yeah, let's hear. I want to hear the
End of the story.
So anyway, this guy just ended up breaking free of my grip and going through the door, and it was like I knew I couldn't do anything beyond that. It was like, oh, bummer, he's gone, and that was it. And that was all sort of really I remember from the dream. And it was about a day and a half later. The television was on in the lounge room. I was just mucking around in the kitchen, whatever. And it came over the TV. Michael Hutchins had killed himself. And that's who it was.
Wow.
Wow.
That freaked me out because I wasn't
That's
like a
a good
particular
one.
Michael Hutchins fan or anything. So it's not like I was obsessed with In Excess or obsessed with him. I mean, I loved him, but I loved a lot of bands, you know. I had maybe one or two of his albums, occasionally played them.
Yeah.
There were a couple of connections, but not strong enough. Never met him. So I don't know why that happened. I hadn't long given birth, so I was sort of speculating just last night as I was thinking about this. I was thinking, I wonder if it's because I had these hormones and stuff and I was a bit more, I don't know. What do you think, Candace? Does that make any sense to you?
Well, I personally think that just because he was a rock star in this lifetime doesn't mean that you guys haven't met in a past life for him to come into your dream. Whatever's in the spirit world is usually a manifestation. It manifests itself in the actual world. So, and that's in the Bible. So it just seems like to me that you guys either connected before and you know, he was just basically, to me, that he was just interacting with you in that dream state. And I think that, and like I said, the door is the gateway to is usually to, you know, the next dimension, either next dimension, heaven, whatever you want to call it. But or even I think you said, I wasn't sure, did you say that it was a void, it was black, the door?
Not the door itself, but the space behind the door, where the door led to, was like, it was almost like a great big black hole, but there was no structure. It was just a space. Yeah. It
seemed to me like that's what they call the void. The void. So
I'd love to know what time it was too. I mean, I'll never know, but I'd love to know what time I dreamt that, as opposed to what time he left the planet. That would be very interesting. He was in Sydney.
That would be very interesting. But yeah,
we were on the same timeline.
Yeah, definitely.
Great stories.
Sure.
Great story. The other thing I want to say is that apart from, you know, Keel's experience is common, where people dream of things that are important to them in the future, but also people often dream of big world events, things like 9/11. There's been people dreaming of that. So, you know, Michael Hutchins was a big story. So, you know, maybe that's why he came into your consciousness. I mean, you know, that story went around the world to the UK as well, because In Excess were very big all around the world, weren't they? So yeah, people often dream about big world events as well, you know, as precognitive.
Yeah, well, how many people have avoided getting on planes because they had a dream and turns out their plane crashes and stuff? I mean, I've heard that many times.
Hey, Veli.
Hey, what's going on?
We're just swapping stories. Really, most of the stories we've been talking about are dreams and premonitions right now. Do you have any supernatural, or you have anything any personal experiences of that nature?
No, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, not really. My stuff is too crazy, so I'm gonna keep it to myself for now.
Okay.
Yeah, God can still get to you.
Good stuff.
Ghosts can.
Veli, have you had any paranormal experiences ever at all?
Yes, but I don't know if it was just the liquor though. So I'm not sure.
But whatever, share whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah. We all drink here.
I don't really know. I'm just listening for now.
Okay, all right. No problem.
Maybe when he hears everybody else's story, maybe it'll just make him more comfortable to talk about his.
Okay.
Good thinking.
All right. I can tell you this, that like one time in my condo in Atlanta, Valley, and Candace has been there. Which since I've like prayed over the whole house and stuff like that. But like one time, like Gracie and I, my dog, were like sleeping in my bed, and then all of a sudden I woke up in the middle of the night and we were being pulled. Like something was pulling us off the bed. And then I was frozen with like I couldn't speak, I couldn't wake up, I couldn't say anything. I was just frozen. So I just had to start praying because like the enemy can't hear your mind, but he can definitely hear your words and stuff like that. He knows how to manipulate and all that stuff, whatever. But so I just started praying, and then I started rebuking this situation. But I remember when I woke up, like I was so distorted on my bed because you don't know, is this a dream? Like, was I just having this dream, or was it just like really weird, or like what was really going on? But I just remember waking up and I was like, I can't say anything and I can't speak. And it was like I was just frozen. It was just really kind of crazy. And then I just kind of started rebuking it. And then all of a sudden I was able to talk.
There's a word for that. There's it's where the spirit holds you down. There's a word for that. Hold on.
The scientific term,
succubus.
Yes,
paralysis.
like the actual. There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Wait, hold on, Terrence. Hold on, Terrence.
Yes.
Okay, Terrence, you said. Okay, so Terrence, you said the scientific word is what?
Sleep paralysis, but like Candace was saying, that it goes back in mythology as well as the succubus or the old hag. Some people call it as well. Sitting on your chest.
So, what do you think, Terrence, in the scientific term, like causes that? Is there any explanation for that, or does it go back to really spiritual?
There is a sort of, which may be a bit of a bullshit science explanation, but I'll leave you to decide. They say, when you go to sleep, your brain paralyzes your body so you don't act out your dreams. So that, if you're like playing in a soccer game or something, you don't kick your wife out of bed. So
I don't know. You can ask Veli if that's true, and he'd probably say no.
And then your brain, as you wake up, your brain disengages that part. But sometimes if it gets a bit out of sync, you can wake up before your brain has, while you're still paralyzed effectively from your dreams.
It's probably kind of like when you like wake up right before you're about to die or something. Like when you go and you're falling and you're about to die, and then like it just wakes you up or whatever.
Possible.
You think?
I've had this. I've had sleep paralysis before, but before I get to it, I want to welcome Brucey. He's he's been on the show before a couple of times. How you doing, Brucey?
Hey everybody, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. We're just kind of cannot see you. But
are you coming on, Brewski Bruce?
Brunosi.
I'm trying.
That may just be because Brucey is actually a vampire. Oh no, never mind. He is right there.
There he is.
Looking pretty good for a vampire.
But
we're just damn good for a vampire.
We're talking about premonition dreams and sleep paralysis. But I've had sleep paralysis a few times, and it's kind of scary because I know I'm awake because I can look and see my room that I'm laying in, but I can't move, and I'm not quite sure if I feel like I'm awake, but in my brain I'm thinking, what's going on? Is this really reality, or am I just still asleep or something? But it can be scary. Your brain is still kind of firing off dream chemicals or whatever, so you can hear stuff in your room, and it makes you real paranoid. Like, is somebody in my room, and what's going on? Am I gonna get attacked here? But eventually I remember either just falling back asleep and then no big deal, or eventually I can kind of will myself to start moving, and then I just kind of shake myself out of it, and I wake up, and then there's nothing weird. It's just you're just sitting there in your room and there's nobody there. And anyway, I think sleep paralysis is a real thing, and I think your description of it is accurate. I don't know how else you would describe it unless you went into alien abduction or, you know, spirits holding you down and stuff like that. So it's
I'm
you
going
know,
with spirits
for
holding you
interpretation.
down.
Okay.
Oh,
And Big
thank you
Perm's
very
here
much.
too. What's up,
Hi,
Big Perm?
What's going on,
There are
everyone?
people.
I
who
had some
claim to
technical
be-
difficulties.
Hey,
That's
hey,
quite all right.
Lovely background. loving the background.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah.
awesome.
Appreciate it.
For those of you just listening, it looks like a graveyard with an old church and a
Yeah, I
at
wanted
night
to
with a
see
giant
it.
moon, full moon.
It's like a scene from the Munsters.
Very
Can I-
ominous clouds.
Can I
Very
see it?
cool.
I want to see it.
Yeah. Just talking about being placed into places. I had a story about that, if I may. So I was down in Tasmania in the early 90s, and I was at a gathering at a house which was at the base of a beautiful mountain, lots of space, acres and acres. Everyone was kind of spread out around the house. You know, people were picnicking. There was probably about 30 or 40 people. Family day. You know, lots of little kiddies wandering around in nappies and stuff. They had one of those swing sets that people get in their backyards, which is like a swing, and the middle thing is like a bar with 2 rings and chain, and then the next one is like a sort of a seesaw that swings. So I was just wandering around, just playing with kiddies. I didn't have any children at this stage. Just playing with the children and, you know, having fun with them and whatever. And I walked over to the swing set, and this little kid was in the middle thing, playing on the bar, and sort of looked like it wanted a bit of a hand. So I just walked over and was kind of standing near it and making sure that, you know, it was not falling off or anything. And there was these older kids on the seesaw swing thing next to me, just to my right. And they were going pretty out of control, like, you know, as you do when you're kids and you're a bit older and you get on, you try to make it go as much as you can and as fast as you can and hopefully go right round. Anyway, out of the corner of my eye, as these kids were like full momentum, out of the corner of my eye, there was a little toddler walking towards exactly where the swing was about to be. And this all happened like in a microsecond, but it was like slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I could see basically the next swing or 2 is going to collect this toddler in the side of its head, basically. So this was like microsecond decisions, notice what's happening, see what's about to happen. I don't know how I managed to do this, because like this thing was going full bore. There was 2 kids on it that were older, you know, so it was their weight. Somehow, before this little toddler just got in the way, I managed to put my arm out and stop this thing dead in its tracks, like right in the middle. There was it was just like a mechanical arm came out and stopped it. And like no one really saw what was going on here. And this little kid, and then out of the corner of my eye, I saw some guy come, like he was running up, like he'd seen what was about to happen, but he couldn't get there in time. He just went, "Whoa, I saw that." You know? And he went and picked up the little kid. I can't really tell you what happened after that, because I was kind of in a little bit of like a state of, fuck, what?
Yeah.
That was like, there's no way that was just me. Like, no way. So yeah, just as you do get placed into places, you know.
Did the 2 kids go flying off and the like the inertia of the kids just kept moving?
No, they were just, I didn't really even take notice of what they were doing after that moment, but they were still on the swing, but yeah.
They were probably angry that you stopped their momentum going.
Well, save that little kid and his parents a whole lifetime of pain if he'd have survived, because that little head probably would have been smashed, you know. Ugh. It was, so thank you, Lord, for that. Yeah.
You hear the odd story of like mothers lifting cars off their kids to, you know, if they're underneath them.
For sure.
Yeah, I have no doubt there's an extra thing that you can, well, not even tap into, because I didn't ask for anything in that moment. I didn't have time. Something else saw what was going on there, and that little child, its number
maybe you're really a superhero and you don't know it.
Yeah.
Like Unbreakable.
There you go. I was just about to say that.
Stop the speeding train.
Well, what's up, Brucey? Big Perm?
What's that?
Any What's your take on all
details?
on the supernatural?
I got nothing. You guys are all full of shit.
Can I do mine?
I'm just
Yes,
playing.
yes, please, Terry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll share mine. Mine are a bit unusual, but they this phenomenon is the most commonly experienced paranormal effect that everyone experiences.
Okay.
And it started a few years back when I was reading three books at the same time. Two were about this thing called the disappearing object phenomenon, otherwise known as JOT, which stands for just one of those things, which is something everyone experiences. You put your pen down on the desk, you go to pick it up, and it's gone. And you think, I'm absolutely certain I put my pen there. And the argument of this book was it's something paranormal, but it happens very often that so often to people that they just dismiss it. And then I was also reading a book about manifesting, which is kind of like the secret type thing of how to sort of bring stuff into your life by the power of thought. So it was just kind of coincidence that I was reading this. Anyway, so my wife and I were talking about this, and it was sort of very much in the front of my mind. And she does food fermentation, and she uses a little pack of pH papers to measure the pH of a fermented food, so she knows it's ready. And it's about kind of like half the size of a matchbox, so easily lost, the sort of thing that disappears in the disappearing object phenomenon. And sure enough, she was doing this. We were talking about this phenomenon, and she goes to pick up a pack of pH papers, and they're gone. She says, I know I'd put them down here. She was working on the dining table, and she sort of cleared a few papers off to the end. We searched the whole table and the floor underneath and the chairs, and we lifted all the papers, and it just wasn't there. And we thought, wow, we've experienced one of these. Because we were looking out for it, we actually sort of registered it. And then I thought, I was going to bed, and I thought, hey, I've been reading this manifestation book, and it had little exercises you do, and I'd been running through them with some measure of success, which I might talk about later on. I'll manifest these pH papers back onto the table where they were to start with. So what you have to do is you have to visualize in your head very clearly with utter 100% confidence that these things are. So I pictured it clearly on the middle of this table. That I was going to get up in the morning and I find it in the middle of the table, right? So went to sleep, thinking all the time about this thing. Got up in the next morning. My wife was already up, and I went to looked at the middle of the table. They weren't there, and I thought, oh, Jesus, this is what a failure this is. So I thought, well, I'll look under the papers. About the second document I picked up, they were underneath there, and I picked it up and showed it to Fiona, and we just thought, we're gobsmacked. Really. We both said they definitely were not there last night. So
wait, this was a different table?
That was quite a success, really.
Yeah.
We searched the whole table. They definitely were not there. But the way these things seem, there's a kind of trickstery element to it. They're always, there was a small object that you think, well, maybe I just missed it. That's generally how it works. Although there are some weirder ones in these books that were fantastic. And then this story's got a bit of a coda that the next week we had a little shelf next to the front door where we used to put our keys, and there was a little dish we just tossed the keys in when we came in, and I had a single front door key with a red cover that I used to use myself if I was going out for a jog or going out on a bike or something, because it was very convenient, and I would come in and toss it in the dish, and then it disappeared. Of course, the next week after the pH paper incident, this thing disappeared as well. So I thought, I'm a bit of a klutz with things, it's probably in one of my pockets or something. So I searched through all my clothes and all the bags I use when I'm out cycling and stuff. Couldn't find it anywhere. Searched the shelf really thoroughly, took everything off, emptied the dish with the keys, definitely wasn't there, put everything back. And then I thought, well, I know how this works. I'm going to be able to manifest this back because I had this success with the pH papers. So I went to bed, visualizing clearly this key back on the shelf the next morning. Got up the next morning, looked on the shelf, wasn't there, of course. And I thought, it's going to be behind the dish. So I looked behind the dish, and it still wasn't there. So I thought, blast, I've lost my knack. And we were talking, Fiona and I were talking about this a bit, and you know, I was carried on reading the book, and it was about a week later we were talking about it again, and I said, that thing with the pH paper was amazing. I said, but it never worked with a key, did it? And I went to the shelf and I said, you know, because I expected it to be, and I didn't finish the sentence because I moved the dish, and behind the dish, leaning up against the back of the shelf, was this key with a red cover. And I just took it out and showed it to her, and we both sort of went, bloody hell.
Wow, what came out of that volcano?
Yeah. But nothing like that's really happened to me. And I sort of got out of the habit of it. I thought, because it takes quite a lot of concentration if you're trying to do this sort of secret type stuff, and I couldn't really be bothered with it really. But it was kind of an interesting experiment for the time. So there you go. That's what happened to me. And if you look out for it, it will happen to you as well, because these things happen all the time.
You got anything, Ashley?
I do. So I wish that I could provide some specific timelines here, because this was a really weird situation. So I will say that, first of all, I have never, that I can recall, had a paranormal or predictive dream, like some of y'all have, so that's really, really fascinating to me. And then this didn't actually happen to me, but this happened to just someone that I knew. So I'll try to make this brief, but give you the rundown. So I had this best friend in elementary and middle school. And I feel like it was at the end of 8th grade that she ended up going to a different area, and she was living with her aunt and her cousin, who was the same age. So I would talk to her on the phone, and I feel like it was a lot. So it must have been over the summer, like right after 8th grade, after she had left the school. And she and her cousin that she was staying with, they had a Ouija board. Ooh. And they would play with the Ouija board like every day. You know, I mean, this is like teenager stuff. It just didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. And I remember asking her, like, well, what did the Ouija board, what did it say today? Or what did you hear, whatever. And she would tell me, you know, whatever it said that day. And I remember being really interested in it, but I had never touched a Ouija board. And anyway, so one day she said that the Ouija board told her that her cousin Lee, not the one that she was staying with, but another cousin of theirs, was going to die in a car accident when he was 16. Ew. And he, you know, he wasn't that age yet. He might have been 14 or 15. I just don't remember the exact age or the exact timeline. But then I feel like it must have been a year later, 2 years later, something like that. And sure enough, there was a story about these teenagers that had stolen a car and gone down to Wilmington. They went to the beach, and then they were on the way back, and a 13-year-old was driving the car, and she was speeding on the interstate, and she ended up running underneath a tractor trailer. So all of those kids were killed in that car accident. And one of them was my friend Trisha's cousin, the same one that was predicted that was going to die in a car accident when he was 16 years old. Mm. And let me tell you that I have never touched, I don't even look at a Ouija board. Yeah. If I was ever in a store or something like
you're
that.
You're just opening yourself up to that demonic stuff. I mean, if they should have turned around and just rebuked that in the name of Jesus and prayed for like a spirit over protection over him. I mean, who knows what would have happened, but that's some crazy stuff.
Very crazy. And they were kids too, you know?
Yeah. My friend and I on here may or may not have done some stuff like that with my mom's car when we were teenagers, but we did not get involved in anything like that.
Well, you know, that story is very tragic, but
it could have been a dream.
In contrast to Jackie, if I had a device that could tell me what the future was going to be, I might be inclined to use it more often.
I think it's demonic.
So it's very demonic.
that's even at that age, I
Key to
was
it all.
like very freaked out by it. I sensed that that was a very evil or something, even at that age. And I have
100%.
They're available in kids' toy stores in the toy departments now.
Same here.
It's a
like
bloody crime.
right next to Monopoly and shit.
Yes.
Well, according to the Exorcist movie, if you use a Ouija board by yourself, you can become possessed by it, by a
You
demon.
don't have to be by yourself. You can be
Well,
with anybody.
Because you're
Anyone can
giving
be
it
possessed.
permission.
that was the
Because it's
mechanic
door.
in the movie. Was
Yeah.
It's a doorway,
exactly,
so you're
Candace.
giving it permission.
Yeah, it was really a very strange. And I would say that, like Bruce has said, he's skeptical. I have certainly been skeptical before. But after experiencing that has stayed with me. And so basically, I guess I have the take of like, I don't know. I definitely can't explain all this stuff, but there's definitely a lot of weird stuff that has happened to people that, there is no good earthly explanation,
I'm skeptical just because I've never experienced it, and I'm obviously skeptical about everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like one of those I believe it when I see it kind of guys. It's very interesting to me. I'm not.
Totally
I was
get
only
that.
fucking around when I said you guys are all.
I'm going to start praying that the Holy Spirit just reveals himself and stands in front of you and scares the shit out of you. That's all.
That would be
Scares the
pretty
shit.
scary.
If that happens,
It's not very Christian.
I'll
Doesn't
shit
have to
myself.
scare him, just embraces him.
Embraces you, just comes and gives you
Yeah.
a big hug.
Big hug.
And then you feel this.
That would be cool.
And then you just like feel this overwhelming warmth that you've never felt before. And you're like, oh, I've seen it. Okay, I believe you now. And then
Jackie
you go
showed
to
me the
hug
light.
back, and then it's invisible and you can't touch it. And you're like,
I'd be wondering why
damn
you could summon Jesus. That's what I'd be trying to figure out.
oh, no, I don't know about that.
I was a lot more skeptical myself when I was younger, but I've actually been persuaded by evidence, actually scientific evidence. So there's a lot of evidence for these things. People have done experiments, with paranormal phenomena and spirit communication and all that sort of thing, and it's been very convincing.
There's I know there's
ghost hunters, and those guys are full of shit.
Yeah.
No, well, that's
The ghost hunters are definitely full of caca for sure.
No, but there have
So I
been
guess
there's recorded incidences of people, during surgeries and things when they die, their body shuts down completely, and they have these stories about leaving their body and seeing the surgeon, somebody they'd never met before, could never have seen prior to that, and describing them and the things that they did. Yeah. So that's all pretty interesting stuff.
Well, yeah, I was 11 years old when I had my first cardiac arrest and I died and came back.
Jesus.
Wow.
11?
Share that, Candace.
I was a.
Yeah,
that's
you can't just
all,
drop that and not tell us.
that's a
truth bomb.
Yeah.
Yes, I was during
first cardiac arrest as well.
And I was eating a lot of candy, and it triggered what now they call Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. So I had an extra valve, and it caused my the trick, whatever it is, I don't remember. It caused my two valves to circulate, where it kind of went in a circle. So my heart was racing like 300 beats a minute. And then it just, I had no pulse, no nothing when, so what happened was when my mom finally took me, I don't remember because I was so out of it, because I couldn't lift my head. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. I just remember them rushing me. And then, my mom said they did the paddles and stuff like that. What I remember was being okay, but I saw this bright light, and I just remember talking to the bright light, and I said, God, please don't take me. My mom would be sad without me. And I remember just slamming back into my body, and that's one thing is that people don't really like when you go back in your body, it's like hitting concrete, you just slam. I mean, it kind of like knocks you out. It's like, oh God.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
what I remember. And that's pretty much, I think, has why I've had so many different experiences ever since. That is when I started having experiences with paranormal and what people would call ghost spirits, and stuff like that. So
I have read about that after people have a near-death experience, that it changes everything for them.
Yeah, and it has. It definitely has for me.
Stella, did you have something you wanted to interject there?
Yeah, just when Candace just said how at that moment she was thinking about how her mum would be lost without her, basically. It just triggered something I'd completely forgotten about. When I used to date a guy. Okay. Anyway, we were pretty wild, and we were doing psychedelics a bit at the time, I must admit. And so we'd gone on a bit of a bush bash, which was just like tromp, tromp, tromp through the bush, just completely indestructible tromping. And somehow I'd managed to whack my shin on a log or a tree. I just didn't see this tree trunk, and I just whacked my shin on it. And just for some reason, the pain from it overtook my body. It was from the psychedelics. It completely overtook my body, and I ended up falling to the ground. And apparently, I went into this thing, and sort of like to the point where my boyfriend, I woke up to him giving me mouth to mouth. But in the meantime, I was going through like a tunnely thing, sort of, and I just remember thinking, I can't keep going here because my mum is going to just freak out. Like, she's not going to handle this at all if I don't come back. So that's kind of what made me kind of come back and just shump straight back into my body, woke up to being given mouth to mouth, and then basically got up, started laughing, and off we went tromping again. But that was definitely an experience, and that's what brought me back, exactly that thing, Candace. So it was just interesting you should say that.
Yeah.
It was like love, love brought you back.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh.
But yeah, you went into like your body went into shock and threw you out, because sometimes like the pain, and this is a medical term where the body is in so much pain that it actually throws the spirit out of the body so the spirit can cope with it. There's like a whole medical term. You guys know the medical term. I only know the spiritual terms. But
interesting.
Yeah, they say that when a body is in a lot of pain, why people, like if they're in car accidents, their bodies are all messed up, they'll have like the spirit will float above and like and see things, but then will come back because it can't, the spirit can't take the pain. There's like a whole thing about it. So that's what it reminds me of, that your story is like that.
I suppose because psychedelics do affect the nervous system too. That gets kind of crumpled up.
I'd like to hear from Perm. Does Perm have any cool stories to share? Up in sunny Seattle.
How's my volume? It's a little loud in my ear, but
that sounds good.
All right. Okay. I have a few stories. A couple of them are more like 1 degree of separation. But when I first jumped in, I heard you say something about sleep paralysis.
Yeah, we were discussing that towards the beginning. But yeah, I've had experiences with it. But what have you had?
That actually jogged my memory of I actually did experience that one time in my life. I was living with a buddy in a 1-bedroom apartment, and he had the bedroom, and me and my girlfriend would typically sleep on the couch in the living room. And I guess I had thought I had woken up. My eyes, I thought, were open, and I could see that we were on the couch in the living room where we sleep, except I couldn't move. I couldn't move any of my body parts. I couldn't even move my eyes. They were just like looking up at her, and she was like casting some kind of spell on me or something.
Bro.
But she, like,
Sounds
this
horrible.
girl was like total, like, nice church girl type. Like, it wasn't somebody I would actually worry about being into something like that. It was obviously a dream, but it was like the most realistic, terrifying dream I ever had.
Wow.
Because I
It
couldn't
might have been
move.
God telling you something about who she was. You never know.
Yeah.
Nah,
You
to
know what
this
people
day,
are
she's
into.
still like a good church girl. But
Well, so she
as far,
says.
yeah, as far as the 1 degree of separation stories, one of them, Terry's story, reminded me of moving items. I was at a buddy's house on New Year's, and must have been 2002 going into 2003, and he had walked into the bathroom, and he said he had walked in with a candle and set it on the counter in the bathroom, and then he walked out of the bathroom and the candle was sitting on the kitchen counter.
Fuck that.
And he didn't seem like he was like having fun with us or anything like that. Like, he didn't seem scared because his mom was into this kind of stuff. That, from what I understand, it was a typical thing in their apartment. And his best friend said he was watching TV at their apartment one night after they had gone to bed, and the TV kept turning off, and he would turn it on, and the TV kept turning off, and then he turned it on, and next thing you knew, he couldn't turn it on again, and he went to like check out the TV, and the plug was unplugged from the wall. So after like 3 or 4 times of it being turned off, it ended up unplugging the TV, whatever
That ghost
it
was ready to go to sleep. They're like,
Yeah,
why you keep
that's what it
bothering me with
sounded
this
like.
nonsense?
And then my only other story was, we used to go visit my stepmom's family in a suburb of Boston when I was a teenager, and they lived in a couple 100-year-old house, and they had told me a story about this ghost in one of the bedrooms upstairs. Now, when I went in there, I felt weird, but as an adult, I just chalk it up as placebo effect because I already knew about it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently their daughter, like, they've owned the house forever, and their daughter refused to go in that room her entire childhood, like, would not go in the room, and they didn't know why. And then my stepmom's aunt, who owned the house, ran into some lady at the supermarket, and somehow they ended up like shooting the shit, and turned out like they explained where she lived, and she was like, "Oh, have you met Veronica?" She was like, "Who's Veronica?" And she's like, "Oh, the lady that used to own that house. She died in the bedroom," and like described what bedroom it was. And she was like, "Oh, that's the room my daughter has refused to go into for the last, 20 years or whatever, 30 years."
Wow.
And well, that's a good segue. I've got a couple once removed stories myself, but I'm going to share this one. I had texted a buddy of mine I used to work with for many years, and he used to tell us the story about an old house he lived in. I think it was in Alabama somewhere, but it was a really old house. It was the first place him and his girlfriend at the time, now his wife, ever lived together. And so I'm just going to read this. I'd send him a text tonight to get him to rehash it. So I'm going to read this text to you. So he said that was the first place she and I moved into while we were in college. The house was super duper old and an old farmland. We were super poor and rent was cheap though. We would often hear the same strange noises out of the guest bedroom, usually in the middle of the night. It sounded like the closet slamming shut and then furniture being dragged across the room. It was that same sound every time. Of course, there was nothing there when we'd go check. And so that's scary in itself. And then he said, whenever he would have guests over, they would always get sick a day or two after staying in that room. And they just had eventually stopped letting people stay over there overnight just to avoid the room altogether. And his takeaway was it was probably just an old creaky house with a mold problem, but He said it always freaked him out every time, you know. And I also remember him telling us that the house was owned by these two old spinster sisters, and they were always kind of weird and, you know, mystical or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he had said, but
Wiccan
anyway.
witches, probably.
I don't know.
So I have a story. So when Terrence was talking, and so back in September, after I had did like my fireworks or whatever, and then I had extra cash, and I just hadn't put anything in the bank at that point. It was like August, September August, September time. So anyway, so I probably had like a couple $1,000s in my wallet. And so I was like, I talked to Ash, and I definitely talked to my friend Candace that's on here. And I was like, I can't find my wallet. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know where it is. And I had like space because I hadn't really used it. And I've been home in the house for a couple days. And I was like, I don't know where it's at. Blah, 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 blah. So Candace just started praying. And mind you, I made my bed. I looked underneath my sheets. I looked in my backpack. I looked in my wallet. I looked in my closet where my dirty clothes hamper was. I looked all over the place. I looked in my car, of course, everything. Under my seats, under my bed, and behind my bed, whatever. I looked everywhere. Not find it anywhere. So Candace had prayed, and I prayed, but Candace prayed and asked the Lord to, Candace, tell him what you said.
I think
remember or no?
I think I just said I think I remember praying and asking God to just put it right in front of your face so you can see it. Yes.
So then that next day, or like later that night or something, I think it was later that night, I was working. And I was like, and then I really kind of had like a peace about it. But so I was like, okay, like I know. And I'd pray like, Lord, just reveal this to me, like just bring it back. And I promise you that I just pulled my sheet back on my bed, and it was literally right underneath my pillow. Not like laying under the pillow, but it was like my pillow is here. And then my wallet was like right here. It was like, it was literally like right there where it was not before, because I had checked all over the place. And and then Ashley, did I not call you the next day or whatever? And I was like, oh my God, Ashley, you will not believe this.
You were so happy.
Was the money?
There's theories about that. Sorry,
the ghost robbed you before he put the money back,
and felt guilty and brought it back. Because Jesus made him.
Jesus made him, and it realized it couldn't really spend real money. It could only spend spiritual money.
Yeah. He was trying to cash in.
Can I just add about these disappearing object things? Some of the stories in these books are really wild, because sometimes the object comes back not quite the same. There's a great one where someone loses a really nice, it's like an ivory travel clock, a really sort of expensive travel clock, and it disappears off their nightstand, bedside table. Can't find it anywhere. Look throughout the whole of the room. And then they come back into the flat one day, and it's in the middle of the hallway, except it's not the same clock. It's a very similar one, but it's a sort of cheap plastic imitation. So it's just, I mean, how do you explain
almost
things?
Like a glitch really in the matrix.
Exactly, a glitch in the matrix. And there's a similar one where someone took 4 library books out the library, and they specifically picked these 4 books, and you know, she's on the bus going home, checks in a bag, and one of the books has been switched for a different book, one she's not interested in at all. So you know, she just couldn't explain how this book had been exchanged for another one. So, and there's quite a few stories like that where things get exchanged, but not quite correctly. It's like, as you say, a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
Stella, what was the theories? Was it the simulation kind of thing?
Well, yeah, you could weave it into that. There's just about crossing timelines. I mean, multi-dimensional options of the same scenarios, but different, because it's a slightly different dimension. So every different dimension is buried, you know, could be a different outcome, whatever. That's just a theory.
Well, you know,
that
that's
has
very
been put forward.
interesting. That's very interesting. So I'll share a dream that I had regarding timelines. So it was back in 2012.
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth
Can you hear me?
connected.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't think it was you. It was Big Perm.
okay.
You could generally big perm that is, yeah.
He must have walked out of range with his headset, I'd say. Something like that.
Probably.
Sorry, Candice.
So I had a dream, and it was in 2012, and this is like back in 2012 where everyone was like, oh my god, the Armageddon, you know, everybody, the world's coming to an end, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was standing in my dream, and on the left of me was all these lines, like a piece of paper, you know, like the notebook paper. So I was almost like I was standing on the side of the notebook paper with all those lines. So what I did is I jumped up and I flew up and I stepped into a timeline. And as I walked onto this timeline, and the only reason I'm using the word timeline because now I understand the dream, but at the time I didn't. So I kind of walked in this timeline, and I was like, "Hi, everybody!" And everybody's looking. I'm acting like I'm so well known, you know. So I'm like, hi everybody, and nobody's responding to me, and I'm just like, okay. So I walked up to this guy, and I was like, "What's today's date?" And he's like, it's July 17, 2017. And I said, oh, okay. And I looked around and I was like, well, it looks normal to me. And then I woke up. And at that time, when I was trying to, like, you know, I was like, oh my God. So it dawned on me, like, we are in timelines, and that's what it was. Every year is a timeline, is basically what the dream was telling me, that every year is a timeline. And I jumped up in July 17, 2017, and we were fine. And that was back in 2012. So I thought that was a very interesting, I know I have like the weirdest dream.
No. Excuse me.
I have the most weirdest dream. If I even tell you my alien dreams, you guys will probably really want to just hang up on me.
I love the fucking aliens.
Well, all this talk is bringing up more stories in my head of stuff that I can talk about. And your story of timelines reminds me of a dream that I had. This was years ago. I was in college, and I had a roommate of mine, was an old friend of mine. And I had this dream. It was like you, I've got wacky dreams usually. In this particular dream, there was, I don't want to go into all the details. It was too ridiculous, but the premise was that there was, the end of the world was happening, and I had been given information about what day that was happening. And when it started happening, I stepped outside and I was like, aha, yes, I knew it. This was the day. And I like just remembered it. And then stuff collapsed and whatever. And
so can you give me that? Can you give me that date, please?
well, I'm getting to that.
Yeah, that's not the date.
I'll get to that part.
Oh,
that's the weird part. So in the dream, the date, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but the month and the year were important. It was in the dream. I remember being told either June or July 4th or 5th in 1998, and I told this to my buddy, my roommate, because I would share my wacky dreams with him. And he, for whatever reason, he was amused by them, even though listening to people's dreams is like the most boring thing ever. But so it was the date that was important. So as we went through the school year, he started getting into, if you've ever heard of the Church of the Subgenius, it's an old kind of a parody of a cult that was started back in the 70s, and it's all kind of funny. It's not a real thing, really, if you've ever heard of it. But according to the lore of that church, my buddy came back to one day after going to some kind of meetup with people from that church, and he was like, "Holy shit, Keel! Remember that dream you had?" and he said the date that they had picked for the end of the world, and this was prior to 98, he said was like July 5th, 1998 was the date that they had picked for the end of the year, or whatever it was. It wasn't that precisely, but it was that same whatever month and year that I had told him. And I was like, holy crap, that's crazy. And I had never heard of the Church of the Subgenius when I had that dream. It wasn't a thing that I would have ever, noticed before. But I think this was in 1997 when the dream and the conversation happened. And in 98, when it came and went, the church, said, "Oh, so I guess we got it wrong." And they ended up flipping over the year, and it was what's 1998?
89, 91.
Yeah, 89, 91. So it was.
So they did the isometric reflection.
Right.
Thing.
So, I mean,
it bought us some time.
There was just kind of wacky that I kind of nailed whatever the month and the year was that they had picked, anyway.
Classic.
But I didn't feel like I was on a different timeline, though. In the dream, it was supposedly in the future. I don't know.
Yeah.
In the future then, in the past now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting, actually, because there's an isometric reflection mathematics system that you can use to sort of make predictions.
Oh, and I believe that because I believe like a whole universe is created with mathematical equations.
And Terrence is our expert mathematician. He's like the science of math. What do you think, Terrence?
I'm a bit skeptical about that. So the thing about if you talk about numerology and things like that, I reckon that if you give me some words, I can make them mean anything else using numerology.
I'm not talking about numerology at all.
I'm a like
talking about mathematics
and numerology.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that mathematics is what makes the universe work, or what. Yeah. From our point of view, what seems to make the universe work. We're probably only making very crude models of what's really going on with mathematics, really. But,
the reason I brought that up was because the 1998 was one of the years that was used as like a base year. I'm not 100% sure why. I'd have to go over that again. But 1998 was a base year. So basically, if you want to know what's going to happen in, let's say, 2008, 10 years after 1998, you'd look at 1988. And you'd study events and apply other mathematics, including pi and phi. But you can look at that and then pretty much predict, not 100% accurate, but it's pretty damn accurate, what's going to sort of take place. It might be on a political level or it might be on a personal level, depending what you're looking for. It's nothing to do with spiritualism or numerology or anything like that. It's purely mathematics.
I will tell you a couple of things. One is, years ago, probably a few years ago, when Veli was going through some things and we weren't really talking at the time, that the Lord woke me up in the middle of the night and just had me advertently praying for him. And like, I just was woken up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to do that. And then I would say in 2019, I was in December of 2019, I was provided with a dream that the end of the world was coming. And the Lord was like, you are going to be left behind. It was like the whole left behind thing. And I was going to be left behind. And I needed to bring those who were lost or left behind to Christ. However, that wasn't the point of it. The point of it was, as I wasn't as well versed in the Bible to be able to be as spiritually gifted as I should be at that time. And then like, that was like the biggest message I got out of that. And then I thought it was kind of crazy because it just seems so real. It was like, like one of those dreams where you like wake up and you're like, was this reality or was this like a dream, And I woke up and I texted 2 of my friends that were, and probably still are, much stronger Christians than I am, like more versed in the word and stuff like that. And I'm an average to below average Christian. like I just, I really kind of just work more off of experiences. I don't study as much as I should. And so anyhow, it just was like, so I was just talking to them, and it was just kind of really just kind of crazy. And then in March of 2020 is when like the whole world shut down. I was like, holy smokes. Like, I was like, okay, like I really need to be prepared for whatever, that God has called for me. And it's almost 3 years later, and I still haven't prepared as much as I should. But the Lord already knew that when he came into it. And, but I'm just like, but my faith doesn't waver and stuff like that. And I just know just certain things. And it's just because I know it. It's not, if I probably read the word more, I probably would have a better ability of explaining certain things, and probably like, but I don't. And so it is what it is. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of crazy because all the world shut down like right after I had this like whole thing about like the end of the world and stuff like that. It doesn't seem as crazy now.
The end of the world as we know it.
Yes, that is so true.
Going back to I'm sorry if I forget your name. The gentleman that had the dream of 1999. Just to break it down to you, if you're bringing up the numerology, that's the year that if you break it down numerology, it's 27, and then you add the 27, which is 9, and the year 9 is actually a year of completion. So it's probably why you got the
and I was born on the 27th day, so I was completion.
Me too.
I know, but
so
let me tell you,
year of completion.
And it's interesting because that brings to mind the Boomtown Rats song, I Don't Like Mondays. I mean, they're always throwing those little predictive programming things in, little stones into the river.
I think
river of chaos.
Yeah, I think they might have based that on the fact that a lot of shootings happen on a Monday because people feel a bit pissed off on Mondays.
Yeah, if you notice how like Monday's energy, if you step out, is totally different than Fridays.
100%.
11 was on a Tuesday.
But only because we work Monday to Friday, that changes the.
Well, that sort of sets the bar, doesn't it? That sets the social climate, the collective consciousness. What did you say, Ashley?
Yeah.
Ashley, what did you say? And do you have a story to share?
I shared mine about the Ouija board. And that's pretty, that's my main one. But 9/11, I just looked it up to confirm, was a Tuesday morning.
Was it a Tuesday?
Tuesday in America.
Boom.
Okay. So Wednesday for Australia.
Yeah.
Tuesday in the Northern Hemisphere. Yeah, well, I mean, who knows? But it's more about the dates. It's more about the numbers. The days actually don't mean a whole lot because the calendars have all changed so many times through, like countless times through history. Those days and that don't really mean a whole lot. It's the numbers.
Yes, the numbers are what they have the power behind it. Yes, that they utilize.
Yeah, but, and each number does mean something. Like you say, there's a lot of numbers that they use, what have you. But you'll find that if you look into those numbers, it's not always as straightforward as just adding up, the date to make a sum. It's not always that way either. I mean, that's very simple, basic numerology, but there's other ways people.
So it's the numbers themselves are important, not necessarily that something mystic is supposed to happen on that turn of the earth. Okay.
Correct.
I would say that it probably correlates with, like on the Celtic sort of level, it would, Beltane, like the turning to Beltane, etc., is always a very significant date.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know if you could say it's one or the other, or you'd have to pick. You can't say it's both because if maybe I'm wrong, but the calendars are just placed by, humans and created, and there's Julian versus Gregorian, and
time is
it's kind
time
of
is a man-made construct.
So
all time is definitely a man-made.
Are artificial. I'd be more convinced if they did it like on an equinox or something like that.
That would be more significant.
You have a look at those dates, and you probably find there's a stack of things that happened on those dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think time is a
year
program.
after year. Yeah, it's a construct. It's a man-made
I could
construct.
pick any date and find a lot of significant things happening on it.
And even the equinoxes and solstices aren't consistent over the course of several thousand years. They're going to be slightly off, you know.
Around a bit,
yeah, because you can put up some rocks like Stonehenge and perfectly align them to the solstice, and then 10,000 years later somebody comes by and looks at it and say, well, this is pretty close to the solstice, but it's off by a smidgen because of the way if you believe in space, the way the sun spins around the center of the galaxy and the earth, and everything kind of shifts a little bit over time, over, you know.
Yeah, but when you say the
time.
solstice, are you talking about the solstice according to the calendar or the solstice according to nature?
According to nature.
Right. Well, it should always be in time with nature. But as far as like going, oh, it's on the 21st of December or the 21st of June, that's wrong because, yeah, the days have varied. I mean, we're 365.25 days in the year. So it's always this little bit of outness every now and then. They got to catch up over thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, the calendar's changed many times. And, you know, I mean, the calendar wasn't even based on dates and new numbers. It's all based on moons and things in the old days. They didn't think about months or years. They thought about moons.
Right.
I have a question for Terry. What's your opinion on like time being like completely not a factor in that, like everything's all going on all at once in like multiple dimensions, I guess you would say, or whatever, like we're having this conversation an infinite amount of times and saying an infinite amount of different things and the same thing an infinite amount, and just like everything that's ever happened and everything that will happen is already going on right now.
It's a tremendous question.
You're meaning like past, future, and the now going on?
Like what they call that, the multiverse, like everything
is going on at the same time.
Right.
Or are you talking about destiny, the fact that, you know, the things are mapped out for us in the future?
No, I don't necessarily mean that. I mean, like everything is happening all at once. So it wouldn't be destiny because I think there's an infinite possibilities of what I'm saying right now, what you're saying right now.
I know what you're saying.
Whether I went with my kids tonight to the fair or I decided to pay my wife for the ticket she bought me and hang out with you guys instead.
Which we appreciate. Thank you.
Oh shit, Perm's in trouble.
Hey.
So I guess
such a difficult question to answer. My belief about our life here, and it's a bit different to the Christians we have here, is that we may have many lives, and each particular life we're sort of mapped out to do something in particular. But so that's where the destiny thing comes in, and that's why I think precognitive dreams can sometimes work, because there are certain signposts in your life that you're supposed to get to. However, we all have free will and we don't have to do that if we want. So we can kind of fail, if you like, by going off on a different path, and then maybe we have to come back, try again. And I think times is a much more slippery thing than mainstream scientists like to make out, because people do definitely get glimpses of the future sometimes in dreams or other, you know, when they're on psychedelics or what have you. So, but I don't think that would be 100% successful. I don't think you can definitely know the future for sure. You're just like 90% of the time, you know, your predicted dream might come out right. But, you know, because everyone's got their own free will and they've got choices, they can go on a different path. So, you know, you might dream you're on a terrible plane crash, but because of that, you decide not to go. And that's happened to people. So.
Yeah, I've been actually thinking about this concept recently. I know it's not an original theory, but lately I've been formulating this theory of existence in my head, just because that's kind of the kind of thing I think about. But if we have to start with the assumption that the universe is infinite, right? And so across an infinite scale of time and space, every single possibility of everything could possibly happen, right? I mean, that's infinitely, that just has to be the case. So if that's true, then our molecules, as they are assembled now, as we're on this planet, as we're having this discussion, at some point will be reformed in almost exactly the same collection. So if you think that, then you could say, well, then there must be some future time when, after we've all died and our molecules have fallen apart and distributed back into the universe, they must be reformed, right, into the same configuration so that we would remember this conversation. So the thought of that has actually given me a little bit of comfort, just in thinking about the universe and saying, well, you know what, once I die, it's fine, because I'll wake up or become realized at some point again, and it'll just be a continuation of what we're doing here, you know? I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but
no, that makes perfect sense.
Strangely, that made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
My thought on it. And
Brewski Bruce really hasn't had a chance to talk tonight. I just would
go
love
ahead.
to hear what he has to say.
I was just being a smart ass. I really don't have any.
No, but Brewski Bruce is
Kyoto's been smoking weed.
Allegedly.
Sounds like he's got
Stella,
a stash.
Stella, what were you going to say?
I just wanted to say matter lives matter.
Matter lives matter.
Matter lives matter.
They do.
So Brewski Bruce is like one of our skeptics who, you know, is like the total opposite than a lot of us that hadn't had these. So because we are an all-inclusive group, unlike the liberals who pretend like that they are, but want to force their
very selfish
beliefs down your throat, like I'm choking. We are more like, hey, like I love you regardless. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you think. So I want him to be able to have an opportunity, and if he chooses, and if not, you can just tell me to go fuck myself. I may do that later. But that's besides the point.
Is it all coincidence, Brucey? All of it?
I don't know.
Bruce, you must have had something weird happen to you or your friend or something.
I don't recall anything ever out of the ordinary like that happening. I wish it would. Like I don't.
You've never dealt with like ghosts or anything?
No.
Wow, good for you.
From friends or families?
I mean, I've had people tell me shit, and I told them they were retarded.
Great.
Retarded.
But that's when I was younger. Like I don't have any. I don't know. It's not like I don't believe you.
It's just you just haven't experienced it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Fair enough.
That's fair.
I haven't personally experienced it either. Like I said, mine were all 1 degree of separation. So
like I've had
I
crazy
can't say
dreams
that I've seen
shit.
it.
That's it.
It seems to me that these sort of things don't happen to people who are very skeptical, because
they just don't notice
them. When I was very skeptical, I just, you know, things I wouldn't notice things so much, or you know, things just wouldn't happen. So
I think
not
maybe
tuned
that's
in.
What it is. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just not paying attention.
It's like a radio. You got to tune into that frequency, and you know, it's just as simple as that, really. And that's what, you know, prayer and whatever it may be. And I'm not trying to be like a Bible bashing Christian here. I'm not. But I mean, I've got a story later on if you want about the power of prayer. It's indisputable. So I just encourage people to at least give it a go.
Yeah.
Not gonna hurt.
I can tell you like one of the experience I had. So Candace and I have been friends for 30 something years, even though we're only 29. It's so weird. But
that's supernatural.
I know, it's definitely supernatural. So outside of our own little escapades as a child, but alleged, you know, may or may not have you know, done some illegal activities. However, that's besides the point. So anyways, but as an adult, when I was living with my mom, this is before I moved to Georgia. It was probably in my late 20s at the time. And my mom is both of our parents, but my mom is definitely an alcoholic and stuff like that. And I remember fasting for like 3 days. I gave up food. And so I was just like had juice, water, and probably soda from time to time just to balance out my sugar levels. And it was like 12 o'clock at night. I'm sitting in front of the computer. And so my back was to the rest of the house. And I'm just praying to God, right? And so my back was to like the door and all that, so the front door, and then like the hallway where my mom's room was from. It was a 3-bedroom house. And so I was coming from I was sitting there, and then like I just started praying, and I was starting praying that God would rebuke whatever demonic spirits. And I feel like the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, just kind of took over, right? And then I was just like into like the whole prayer thing, like the chills, all that stuff. But then all of a sudden I started feeling like my mom was going to come stab me in the back. Like it was like this ultimate fear. And I was like, oh my God. So I turned around. And like no one was there. And I was like, oh my God, this is just absolutely crazy. So then I just turned back around and I just started praying more because I was like, I don't know what's going on. So like from a logical standpoint, being a Christian and like having like, okay, knowing that there's like spirits and stuff that are fighting for you, like that's how I have to like think of stuff logically. I'm a very logical thinker. So I have to like make sense of stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is what I have to make sense of this because I don't know why I was feeling like that. It was just so weird. And then the very next day, my mom like stopped drinking after that for a while. She went back to it, but she did stop drinking for a while. So.
Listen, I'm going to duck out in a minute, but
I'm sorry.
Right. Sorry, Stel.
No, you're right. Go, Terry.
I'm going to quit in a minute, but I wanted to share a once removed story. Since we were doing those. In fact, I've got kind of one little one as well. A good friend of mine used to live in this student house with loads of people coming and going, but they would get phantom footsteps running up the stairs from time to time. You'd hear someone running up the stairs. They think, oh, that's Susie or so, and go up and go to talk to her, and there'd be no one upstairs at all. So that was quite good. That happened a few times now. But the one I was going to tell you was like an after death visitation type thing. One of my wife Fiona's uncles died, and the couple were quite traditional, so he would handle all the money and the finances and the insurance policies and things. So he died unexpectedly, and the aunt was left in a bit of a mess because she didn't know, how to sort of sort out this mess that had been left behind, because she didn't know how to get the bank accounts or anything. So this situation went on for about a week, and then one of my wife's cousin, this person who died was their uncle as well. She had a dream where the uncle visited her in the dream and told her, you've got to do this and then and this cousin went straight round to when she woke up to the aunt's house and said, you've got to look in this box and you've got to look in this file, and if you open this book in the middle, there'll be this really important letter and everything was exactly as she said. So she was able to sort out this problem from beyond the grave, as it were.
Oh,
so that was quite cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All right, Terry, you got to head out.
I'm going to head out. It's very late. Yeah, it's 2 a.m.
All right.
Nice talking with you, sir.
See you on the other side.
Get some sleep.
Parents,
good to finally be back on with you,
say
Terry.
Happy New Year and happy holidays. And
same to you.
It's been this whole year. Just before you go, I just want to let you know, like, since it's our last episode of the year, this whole year has been such a blessing. And if anybody doesn't know, that Terrence is the mastermind behind the show notes, and he's the one that gives us the written wittiness that we need. And lately has been the mensch behind the titles of the podcast. And we just want to say thank you. We want to just tell you how much we love you and how valued you are, regardless of your connection, because we understand that you're Terry from the Canary Islands that had a volcano erupt earlier this year. And the fact that you can even get on Wi-Fi is a blessing for all of us. And the fact that you are such a mastermind and a mathematician, and the smarts that you have really makes us all smarter. Just
don't forget
the rest of us
handsome.
retards.
He is quite
Thank
Very
you.
much. It's been wonderful for me to meet you guys as well, and long may it continue.
You
Yes.
know, I was bored at work today and I was looking at flights to the Canary Islands. So maybe one day we'll have dinner together or something.
Hey, let's get it done.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It's already happening right now.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'll take
Terry.
you around our volcano.
All right. See you later, Terry.
Bye, Terry.
Ciao.
Thank
To love,
you.
Terry.
Bye
Yes,
all.
sir.
Bye.
Bye, Terry.
All right. I've got another once removed story to tell you guys.
Go ahead.
It's another ghost story. This one comes from my wife. I remember her telling me this early on in our relationship. Anyway, when she was a little girl, her family would travel down to somewhere in the panhandle of Florida. I don't recall exactly where, to visit family. And she says that she has a very clear memory of waking up in the middle of the night in the room that she was sleeping in. And there was an old woman, or I say old, but I don't think she was, ancient or anything, just an older woman sitting on the end of her bed, brushing her own hair. Like the old lady was brushing her hair. And my wife woke up and saw this at the foot of the bed and wasn't scared necessarily, just, okay, this person's
As long
there.
as the old lady wasn't brushing your hair and your wife saw
Yeah,
it,
and,
that
and
would
she
be
was
weird.
she was young, so she just kind of thought it was, somebody in the house, but she didn't recognize this person, and then went back to sleep, and that was it. And she never really thought about it until years later. And this was, probably a year or two before I had met her. But she was talking to her sister one time. Her sister is a couple years younger than she is. And they were talking about going down there when they were kids. And her sister told her the same story, that she would wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be this woman brushing her hair at the foot of their bed. But it was nobody that they knew. It was as they got older, they realized, they looked back and thought about it, like, who was that lady? It wasn't their aunt or anybody. There was nobody else in the house that matched this description. And they talked to their parents and everything, and they're like, no, there was nobody else there. It was just, anyway, so it was a ghost, apparently, a ghost that sat at the end of their bed and sat there and brushed her hair. But
Candace has a ghost story with her kids. Candace, tell us.
Hold on, I think I lost you. Can you hear
There
me?
you are. Yeah.
We can hear you.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Before Candace goes, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that I'm also going to dip out. I need to go eat, and I'm very hungry.
Okay.
So,
Behave
All right.
yourself.
We'll see you next time.
I wonder
Okay.
why, but okay. Good night. We love you.
Good night.
Good to see you, Ashley.
Later,
You
Ash.
too. Bye.
See you later.
Bye. All right. Go ahead, Candace. Sorry.
Which one, Jackie? You know I have so many.
I don't know. Share one of them. I think we're like your kids would see either your mom or just something.
Well, what happened? Okay, so what happened was my mom passed away, and when my mom passed away, there was a lot of activity in my house, and not only did my kids see it, but even like when people, like if they had sleepovers, from when my daughter, softball team, her traveling team, they would no longer want to come back because they just, were the house creeped them out. And I lived in a beautiful house in Parkland. It was really pretty. But the energy in the house would spook them out. So my daughter Alina would see orbs. She would see orbs. There was always, like, when we would go to sleep, like children playing. Oh, my son used to see Mr. Teeth. He would be like, oh my God, Mr. Teeth is here, Mom. And I was like, who's Mr. Teeth? And I'm almost thinking that maybe he was trying to say Mr. Teeth. I don't know what that was. I did see a young 20-year-old, you know, young, he looked around like young 20s. He was, you could just, on my stairs, because when I was downstairs, and if you look where my stairway is, there's like this big mirror that I have, and I would look through the mirror and I would see the reflection on top of the stairway. So I felt like something was there. So I went to the bottom. I was in the kitchen. I walked to the bottom of the stairs and I looked, and there was a guy, a kid. I'm gonna say a kid because he was like in his young 20. He had ripped jeans and he had these 2 matching tattoos, one on each shoulder. He had dark hair. He had black underneath his eyes. And when he saw me, I knew it was a spirit. And when he saw me, he ran into my son's room. And for some reason, everybody was always afraid to go in my son's room. My son didn't even sleep in his own room. So that was like, but then even though that was like a not such a good experience, but we had a lot of good experience. Like my daughter would, say, Mom, there's this man, he's always walking upstairs and he's wearing this white robe and he has like these weird shoes on, Mom. And I wasn't religious or anything like that. I'm very spiritual. So my kids went to see, went and got baptized and stuff like that, but we never really taught them anything, So I was like, really? I was like, are you scared? She's like, no, I'm not scared. He's just walking around. And I'm like, so I showed her a picture of Jesus. I was like, is this the guy? She goes, yeah, Mom, that's the guy. I'm like, do you not know who this is? She goes, and of course, I'm ashamed to say, she's like, no, Mom, I don't know who that is. And I was like, that's Jesus. She's like, yeah, he's walking. And now my daughter was probably about 8 years old when she saw, that premonition or admiration, whatever you want to call it. So we've had like good experiences. It's just we did have some of those too. And the children always playing, downstairs at night, and orbs we would see, and the lights would flicker, doors would slam. When my mom passed away, my son, he was little, he would always be like, Mom. I was like, yeah. He goes, Mima's here. And I would be like, oh my God, Mima's here. Like things like that. We would experience. That house was very, very haunted. We actually sold it. And my kids, if my kids were, on this live right now, they would tell you that they never want to go back to the house. They still talk about how haunted that house was. Yeah. So yeah, that house was.
It's an energy field. I mean, I definitely know that energies loiter and hang. Just the other day, I was doing something. It's a bit hard to explain, but basically there was a reflection and my fan was going on top of the roof and it was moving. And I had a blanket over it. And as I moved the blanket, I thought, oh my God, there's a creature. Like I thought it was a lizard. It's just my microsecond thought of like, oh, there's a lizard, but it was a reflection of the fan moving in the air. And I just burst out laughing once I realized what it was, because I'd sort of screamed a bit. And of course, Mum had come down going, oh, what's going on? And I said, oh, just this thing happened. And I put the blanket back over. And I said, just stand here for a sec. I said, just look down here. And then I moved the blanket. She went, oh, it's a lizard. And she didn't hear me. She didn't know it was a lizard. Yeah. So it was sort of like this lizard energy, because I'd just gone, oh, it's this lizard. And we'd just been talking about lizards about a couple of hours before, because I saw this lizard in the backyard. So there was this lizard energy going on. It was really strange.
It always just pops up like that, where you just start talking about something that ends up happening.
Yeah.
When I was just going to say, when I was 20 years old, I lived in this townhouse with her mom, Candace's mom, and her sister. And that townhouse was definitely haunted. Like I used to have a cat I called Mr. Kitty. It was like a cat I found in the neighborhood. And like one day he goes to walk into the laundry room and then he goes, and he like just like freaking he sees something in there and then like darts, and he doesn't, and like he was scared. Like there was nobody in the laundry room, and it was crazy. And then like I used to have a couple of Vietnamese girls I used to hang out with, and one of them, she was like, ghosts are always calling my names and shit. And then one day we were in the house and I was getting ready and she's like, Jackie, did you call me? And I was like, no, I didn't call you.
No,
I didn't say anything.
They say dogs and cats can see ghosts.
Oh,
more
100%.
easily than we can.
And like me and Candace's sister would be like downstairs and like nobody else would be in the house, and we would like hear stuff moving around upstairs on the top floor. We'd hear something fall and be like, what the hell was that? Like nobody's up there. The dog's downstairs. There was like nobody upstairs. It was like the craziest thing. So I think like Candace's family is just haunted.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting because my house prior to moving into the house I was speaking of, my husband at the time's grandfather passed away. Well, actually, we bought the house from a doctor and he was dying and he wanted to move to California. So he sold us the house. Well, I knew he died because we had flowers delivered to the house when it should have went to California. So I was like, oh, okay, he died. Well, this guy decided that house was still his house because his ass would still come through the front door, open the front door and shut the front door like it's his house, go in which was my oldest daughter Mariah's room because that was his office, and just stand over my daughter while she's sleeping. I scared the shit out of my daughter. And then that door, the front door would just open and shut all the time. It would just, and my ex-husband at first, because I was a stay-at-home mom, so he's like, bullshit. And I'm like, I'm telling you. Well, thank God he was there when I said, I told you. He's like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's the doctor. He's coming in and out of this house like it's still his. And then we would have toys. You know, my daughter, she was, young, and we would have toys. And like the teddy bear, if you push it one time, it will say one word. Then the second time it will say another word. Well, the bear turned on and it says, I love you, like that. Well, you had to push it like 4 times before it got to the I love you. But that bear was saying, it would just turn on and be like, I love you. I love you. I'm like, oh. And I think that happened after my husband's grandfather passed away. Well, if I tell you, he was how I met my husband was through his grandfather. His grandfather was my patient because I was in the medical field before I owned a salon, and he was my patient for 6 years. And for 6 years, he came every single day, never missed a day for 6 years to tell me I was going to marry his grandson. And sure enough, I wound up marrying his grandson 6 years later. And he died, and he used to come to our house all the time. And after he died is when the bear would say, I love you. I love you. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I've got one more story to tell, and it's kind of long, but it's, this isn't the one that really anchors me into believing any of this stuff. It could be a series of interesting coincidences to me anyway, but it way back when, probably it was in the mid 90s, early 90s. And I was probably 12 or 13 years old. I remember I woke up one night and looking up kind of at the sky, at my ceiling, and I thought I saw somebody looking over me, like standing over the bed, like looking down at me, and it spooked me, and there was nothing there, and I just coming out of a dream or something like that. Then I don't know, months later, I had an experience where I woke up again, middle of the night, but I felt like I woke up because it felt like somebody was grabbing or pushing my feet around. You know, I didn't just like wake up. I was kind of moved awake, you know, and I woke up and it's dark in the room, and I look at the foot of my bed because my feet had been touched. I look down and there's a figure standing at the end of my bed, like not on the bed, but on the floor, just past my feet. And it was vaguely human shaped. I couldn't make out a whole lot of details other than the fact that I could see its shoulders were kind of moving slightly, just like it looked kind of organic is all. And I couldn't make out a face, but it was, whatever it was looking at me. Like it was looking into my eye, like looking at me from the foot of my bed. And at this point, I thought to myself, remembered back to when I woke up and thought I saw a person standing there. And I thought, all right, I'm awake at this point, and I'm looking at this thing at the end of my bed. And I said, I'm not just going to freak out. I'm going to try to talk to this thing. Like, because last time I freaked out, turned on the light, and there's nothing there. I'm not going to do that this time. So I was looking at it, and I said out loud, "Hey," and it just kept staring at me. Whatever, it didn't react. And I couldn't hold on any longer. I started getting freaked out, and I reached over and turned on my light, and there's nothing there. But I was definitely awake looking at whatever it was, the shadow on my wall when I'm 13 years old. All right. So years later, I was probably 15 at this point, and I had I had gotten a stereo, a big Sony component stereo system for my birthday, and it was in my bedroom. And I had some headphones with really long, like pigtail wire going to it. I'd be listening to it as I'm reading books and stuff. But every once in a while, one of those, Brucey's got an example of one on the screen. Every once in a while, the CDs that I was listening to would start fast forwarding, like as if somebody was holding down the fast forward button on the thing, and it would start skipping through. And I'd be reading a book, so I wouldn't immediately catch on, but then I would realize what's going on, and I'd look over at the CD, and it would go back to normal. You know, as soon as I kind of looked towards it.
Yeah.
Again,
focused on it.
That happens. It's an electronics device. That kind of shit goes down. Whatever. Maybe the CD was scratched or something.
The government was playing games with you back then because they knew where you were going.
Could be. All right.
Targeted individual.
Real quick, my stereo when I was like a teenager was a 50 disc changer.
Yeah.
And once in a while, so they sat on their sides.
Right.
And once in a while, that thing would spin like crazy when I was trying to listen to something, and I was like, holy fuck, this thing is like.
So it would, late at night, I'm sitting there reading, and that would be kind of scary because stuff would be happening with my stereo. So then there was another incident around that same time. And this all happened over the course of a few years. But I remember I was in my room. My brother had a room across the hall from me. And I was listening to Metallica CD, at a reasonable volume. And there you go. Brucey's got a Metallica.
You were listening to the devil's music. Tonight, that's why.
He had all these props ready.
I love Metallica.
I left my room to go do something elsewhere in the house. And I came back, and my brother was walking out of his room, and he was startled by my coming around the corner. He's like, what are you doing here? I said, what do you mean? He's like, I thought you were in your bedroom. I said, no. He's like, oh, well, I'm sitting there. He says, I'm in my room, and the volume on your stereo went up really loud just now. And then as I was leaving, it went back down to normal level. And then you came around the corner, and I'm like, what? I haven't been in my room for the past, 20 minutes or however long I was gone. So it was another weird thing that happened. It was the same stereo. All right. So then there was another incident. These are all kind of connected to my electronics in my bedroom. So I remember I was watching TV, and I had It had this old black and white tube TV that my parents had from years back. And I had it just in my room, and there was no remote control on it or anything. It was like you flip the switch to turn the power on, and you had the big clunky dials to change the channels, you know. And I was watching something on there, and my parents came home from wherever they were at. So I turned the TV off and left. When I came back moments later, the TV was on. So it had been flipped on by something in my room. And my brother wasn't there. He wasn't fucking with me or anything like that. But I distinctly remember turning it off to go talk to my parents, and then came back and it was on. All right. So then there's continuing on that. My parents had a story that they told me. They were standing in the kitchen, and there was a clock up on the wall, and they're talking to each other, and they hear a boing sound, like a spring boing, and then the clock flies off of the wall. Like it leapt off of the wall and landed on the ground and crashed.
like a
These are the
cartoon
days of our
spring.
lives.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So we are building to something here. But the stereo issues would continue. It would fast forward once in a while. The volume would be weird. I don't think I necessarily heard the volume ever change myself, but it definitely did fast forwarding sometimes. So one day after, this is in high school now, I was hanging out with a buddy of mine up in the bedroom, and we left to go outside to go do probably set shit on fire or something like that. Back in the day. So we came back in, went back up to my bedroom, and my bedroom is a mess. Like shit from the closet had been pulled out and it was on the floor. Clothes were strewn everywhere. And we were the only two people in the house at the time. And the door was shut. When we came back, the door was shut like we had left it. Walked in, everything's a mess. Nobody else is there. My brother's away at college at this point. He's not even home. My parents are at work.
You know, it's not your brother.
Yeah. The
Your
door.
parents don't want to hear your mouth, so they're not going to mess your room up.
Right. The door was shut. I had a dog back then, but he couldn't have gotten in there. The door was shut.
Okay, so that was going to be my question. Like, do you own any resentful cats?
No, it wasn't anything like that. We both walked in and both stopped at the same moment, and we're like, looked at each other like, this was not like this when we left. So that was kind of weird. So then a couple years go by, and I go to college, and I brought my stereo with me and set it up in our dorm room. And I had a roommate, same guy that I was telling you about earlier with the dream. The way that our room was situated, though, we two had a room, but then there was another door. Like you walk in the front door, and then to the left side of the wall, there's another door in the middle of that wall. And there was another room on there with two more people. So we had 4 people in our room, basically. But there was 2 rooms, kind of. So my roommate and one of the other guys in the other room were friends of mine from high school. The 4th guy was some guy we didn't know. He's a nice guy. He happened to have the exact same stereo that I had. It was a Sony component system, just like mine. He had it in that room. And one day we're talking, and he comes up to me and he says, you know, something's funny's happened in my stereo. Says it's the volume is going up and down, and it's CDs are skipping kind of once in a while. It's really weird. I was like, holy shit, mine does the same thing, you know? Sony component, whatever, same thing, weird. And
fetch number.
I don't know. So anyway, school goes on, we leave, and whatever, move out, next years go by. I never ever I still have that stereo today. I've never had a problem with like that again. I've never experienced any of those kind of electrical related like appliance issues.
Did you pull a switcheroo?
Apparently, whatever spirit that was inhabiting my bedroom when I was 12 years old and infected my electronics jumped over
jumped
into that
stereos.
guy's stereo.
It's like fucking
and left me
COVID.
alone for the rest
Yeah,
of
they
my
should have been
life.
more socially distanced.
Did they not know about the 6 feet and the masks and all that stuff?
I guess not.
They didn't know
but
about that?
They didn't know about that back then.
I was gonna blame you, like maybe since you came around his radio, it started. But if yours stopped and his started,
mine stopped. I mean, it never caused any problems like that.
Son of a
after
bitch,
that.
that's a
You know,
movie.
yeah, I'd love to look at the geographical sort of thing and see if it's on a ley line or something, perhaps.
Well, it was in Atlanta. I was at Georgia Tech at the time. So
Atlanta's
it was
Georgia's
that
really
looks low.
interesting. Yeah. There's some very interesting things about Georgia. Keep coming across them.
Yeah, they used to have guide stones.
We do.
Yeah, that's
hit
just
them
a
with a
myth.
plane.
They never
Story on that,
existed.
allegedly?
No such thing.
What's that, Jackie?
Huh?
What'd you say?
I said, didn't we do a story on that allegedly?
We did.
Yeah.
Next
Gil's
time we get a
our,
chance, we'll
guide
talk
stone
about some more.
expert. Huh?
I'm no expert.
We all
You
know
are the
you jet
expert.
fuel.
Guidestone guy.
Okay, Brewski Bruce.
What?
Have you ever dealt, like when you were sleeping, where all of a sudden like you woke up and you dealt with sleep paralysis? Have you ever
I've
dealt
not.
with that?
I've heard lots of people say they have. I have never.
Really?
Yeah.
It's pretty rare.
Well, I guess
or
it's good that you
it's
feel like the
uncommon.
spiritual world is like fake and gay because
No,
you've never
no.
had to deal
I didn't
with.
say that. Don't you put words in my mouth?
Okay, so well, you tell us what you think, but
We've
I'm
got
no
that on tape.
homophobe.
huh?
I'm no
Roll back the
homophobe.
tape.
You know, no, okay.
I don't know. I don't know what I believe. I'm
Oh.
very confused.
I'm just saying, so at least you haven't had to deal with like the sleep paralysis and
No, but
some of
probably now after this, I'm gonna get everything. It's gonna be fucking broken
Right,
mirrors.
'cause
Nightmare.
we were your portal to opening you up to all the bullshit.
Yep.
That's why it was like some spiritual thing that was forcing you to get on. Like, you need to come on to this. Ah.
I'm in trouble.
Well, does anybody else have any more stories to share, or do you think we might want to wrap it up?
Well, we
If
definitely
it's
need to
okay,
wrap
I
up
wouldn't mind.
soon.
Yeah.
I think Stella has one more, but I just wanted to say one thing, and then I'm gonna and then Stella can definitely go and close this out.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
is that this is like what we initially like tonight, like our closeout for the 2022 was definitely what like we are about, not necessarily the paranormal stuff, but like our conversation and us coming together, us hanging out, and it just flowing and going throughout the night and stuff like that. This is what brought us together, and like this was the meaning behind like some friends coming together on the Discord and just talking about like, goofy stuff, crazy stuff, whatever, where we would come in and out, we'd hop on video, and if we were available, like there's been times where like last year or the year before that or something, it was like New Year's, and like some people popped off, then someone else popped back on because I got on after midnight, and we just all wanted to celebrate New Year's Eve with each other. And it was just like, just as friendships, you know what I mean? And it was really just us coming together on Discord. And then this is what created out of it, which is what Monica was talking about, Perez from Deep Dives post propaganda report. It was just like a group of friends coming together and just talking about stuff, and I just really felt like tonight was like just a flow, and it's normal, longer than normal, and whatever, it's just us coming together, and just we love each other. And even though I asked, and it was Monica's episode where Brewski Bruce had said, I wouldn't have met these guys if it wasn't for propaganda report, blah, blah, blah. Or I talked to them more than anyone else.
I said no such thing.
Yeah. Okay. It's on audio. And I was like, you know what? That's so true. Let me see if I can get everybody's birthdays and anniversaries. And then all of a sudden I'm being called a Fed for the first time ever.
No.
The Fed.
Anyways,
Wow.
but it was Brucey's comment that prompted that. So anyhow, I love you
Glad I could
guys.
help.
And whoever else wants to go next, Stella, go for it. Keel, I know you wanted to say something. And
No,
I'm not hosting tonight. Keel, you are. So let me step back.
Yeah,
All right,
look,
so
Before you guys start, I'm sorry. Before you guys start, I'm gonna hop off because I'm getting sleepy. So I'm falling asleep.
Okay.
Good night, Candace. We love you.
Good night. It was nice talking with everybody. You guys have fun and good night.
Thanks for joining us, Candace.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us. It was nice to meet you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, it's getting on, isn't it? All right, I'm going to make this as quick as I possibly can for a complex story. Try to be bullet point. So this is about the power of prayer, basically. It's set in Tasmania. It was in the early 90s. It was actually the day that I found out I was pregnant with my first child. Living on a property, hadn't been there very long. It was a very dry time of year. Then all of a sudden, there was a lot of rain, and we hadn't been through a lot of rain on that property, so we didn't know the property real well. We'd already built things like 40-foot grow tunnels and things in their place. We had animals tethered, all that sort of thing. So this particular night we were going out, it was near Christmas, we were going out to have dinner just up the road to my father-in-law's place. And we were only gone probably 2 hours, but we could hear how heavily the rain was falling. It was like, whoa, this is like full on. And came to leaving, time to go home. And we were in a flat tray truck. So I think 3-ton maybe truck. It didn't have anything on the back. The flat tray was like, 10, 12 feet wood. The front of the cabin was, you sit on top of the motor type thing. So that's the setup. So that's what we were traveling home in. Anyway, we only got a few 50 meters past the driveway and realized that the water level, this is where 3 rivers met. We hadn't been through this. Suddenly realized, wow, okay, where 3 rivers meet is quite intense. And we couldn't get anywhere near our place. But the trouble was we had animals tethered. We had to sort of get home. Anyway, I wasn't at the wheel. I wasn't really making the decisions, but my husband just went, oh, we've just got to try. I was like, okay, go. And I'm just thinking, I just found out I'm pregnant. Anyway, so he started to drive into the floodwaters, which when people say, wow, it's just incredible how fast they come up, I can verify it's freaking incredible how fast they come up. So we'd driven in a little bit, and meanwhile the water was coming up. So it was kind of, we were in deeper even though we hadn't gone in very far. And then the motor cut out. And it was like, okay, this is a problem, because we could feel the back of the truck was starting to move sideways. Like the force of the water was pretty intense at this point. I'm thinking, okay, we've got no ropes. The back of the truck's moving. I very much doubt we're going to have much chance at walking. Like, this is all going through your head in, seconds. He just kept trying to start the truck. And it was just like, boom, boom, boom. It's like, he asked me to move so I could lift up the seat so he could have a look at the motor. I don't know what that was going to do, but yeah, okay, whatever helps, So I got down on the floor of the truck and lifted up the seat, and you could see the water just like licking the bottom of the motor. I don't know anything about motors, so I don't know where the sort of the cutoff point of water flow is into a motor, but it was sure as hell getting there. And he was just kept trying, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like this actually could really be it. And so then it just became, we've got no alternative. And I just got to pray. And like, my husband was very not in the same mind. I didn't care. It was like, there's nothing left. There's just us and God. This is it. So I just started praying and out loud. It was loud. There was water rushing through everything. There was, rain whacking down on the windscreens. It was a noisy situation, quite stressful. And he kept trying the motor, and I just had to believe that's all there was. And the motor started, and he just threw it into reverse and carefully got us out of there and up onto dry land. It was like, we just sat there, just not saying anything for a little while, just going, wow, like in our heads, I suppose. But I was just going, my God, like, wow, that was just a testament to the power of prayer. There's no other way of explaining that. And yeah, anyway, the next day, by the time everything had sort of calmed down, the water level had gone down a little bit, We came back down the next day. We had to stay at the father-in-law's. Came back down the next day. We're wading sort of through the waters and came up and realised the bridge had been completely taken out. So it was kind of a good thing that we actually didn't get to go forward, because we wouldn't have gone very far without falling into the ravine where the bridge used to be. So that's my testament to the power of prayer, and no one will ever convince me otherwise. I mean, I've had enough experiences apart from that to also just, but that was like wow for me. So spend a lot of time praying because it works. It's energy, frequency, and vibration. That's, even Tesla said that. That's what it's about, and that's what prayer is. You're just setting things into motion, creating, making things happen, moving things.
Very nice. Very. Wow. I would say cool story, but I don't know. Cool is probably not the right word to use.
It was freezing cold at the time.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. So I encourage people, pray. I want things to change and happen. Some people call it the law of attraction. Whatever it is, whatever your label is, there's something there.
Well, I think that will wrap it up then. Does anybody else have anything left to say? I think Stella, did you want to? We're gonna play one of Stella's songs at the end of this instead of the regular outro. Can you want to set it up for us, Stella?
Oh, yeah, this is an old one called The Hour of the Wolf. It just seemed like an appropriate thing. It only came to me a minute ago that it might be nice to go out on that for the end of the year and talking about supernatural stuff. It's kind of a little bit on the spooky side.
Excellent.
I believe I've heard that one. That's a good one.
You probably have, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
At least that about a year ago.
Listened to it.
So, yeah. Love all you guys. Thank you so much for everything. It's been awesome to be able to connect through all this complete crazy clown madness. There's some sane people there. So love you all.
Great.
Happy to be back with you guys. I've missed you.
Yeah, good to see
Sorry
you.
for all the long time periods in between me being on an episode, but 2 kids.
Oh, besides you being a dad with like a wife
ass.
and 2 kids and
a
lot of other stuff going on, like
bunch of fucking illness, coming home from daycare every other week. It's not fun.
Yeah.
We all
have 2 little walking petri dishes in your house, like
walking petri dishes and a 15-week-old puppy that's a pain in the ass too. So.
Oh, you got a new puppy?
Yeah, she's giant.
Now, is this your dog number 2?
Yeah, she's like 15 weeks old and 40 pounds already.
Wow.
Cha-ching.
Well, we certainly, all of us, appreciate the sacrifice that you've made to meet with us here tonight.
It's only money. It's all good. I might not get laid for another 6 months, but it's already been like 6 months, so it doesn't really matter.
No, it's been less than that because you guys had an anniversary recently, so it was okay.
July.
Oh, well, it's less than 6 months. Anyways.
I want to thank Brucey and Big Perm and Jackie and Stella and everybody who has already left for joining us tonight on one of, I gotta say, I was just wildly amused tonight. I love these kind of stories. It's all incredibly interesting to me. So thank you for sharing everything. And
you just never know how it's going to turn out. Can I just say one thing? Like, as we were all talking about our stuff tonight, I'm sorry, Kill, then I'll let you close out. As we were talking about our stuff tonight, I was like thinking how, like, like how Monica, like, just everything, there's just like an agenda behind everything. And then like how we're all like alleged, like we all just like look for the stories behind the stories and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting because we're all being so genuine tonight and just like we're like sharing like just kind of these interesting stories about like what's happened to us and stuff like that, like stuff that we've actually seen. But there's going to be people out there that think we're making it up. And then they're going to be like, oh, that's not really true. Like, it's just like whatever. And Brewski Riz could be one of them, but I don't think so. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He's just our skeptic, and I wanted him to be on because of that. But it's just kind of funny because it's kind of like everything that we think about, not everything, but like a lot of stuff that we think about is like kind of turned around on us the same, because that's like our group of people. Yep. I don't know. I could just be drunk, but
it's the car wine talking.
Could be.
Well,
everyone's
anyway,
got their different things.
Thank you, Keel. Sorry.
Yes, Stella, what were you saying?
I was just saying everybody's got their different things that they bring. You know, everyone's on a sort of similar yet different level, so it's nice to have the different bits of input.
That's right.
All shades of grey pills.
Maybe I'll get a cool story to tell you.
What? You got a story?
No, as soon as I get one though.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
We could do another one of these.
Looking for it now. Keep my eyes peeled.
All right. Well, we are the Union of the Unknowns. This is our last show to be published for the year 2022. Everybody have a great New Year's Eve, and hopefully had a good Christmas. I don't know what you guys celebrate. But this will post after all that happens anyway, I think. So hope you had a good one. Hope you have a good. We're gonna have a next show will be at the beginning of next year, and then we can probably share our wild New Year's Eve stories, assuming that they weren't all spent watching Big Perm sit there till 3 o'clock in the morning like we did. What was that, last year?
Yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah.
Also,
and
get an Uber, everybody, or get a DD. Don't drink and drive like Jackie does.
Seriously, that's something.
I don't know who that is.
Doxed.
Listen. Anyways, listen. I definitely don't do that on New Year's. Okay, so make sure you like and subscribe us on your favorite podcasting platform. Go to unionoftheunknowns.com to find us where you want to follow us. Please subscribe to our newsletter so you can find out when we will be posting. Our latest subscriber, our amazing Keelthor, is the one that has created our newsletter, and it's not spam if you ask to have it sent to you, and it will only be once or twice a week, so it's not like it's going to be annoying or anything. Thank you, Keel.
All right, you're welcome. All right, what was the name of the song, Stella?
Hour of the Wolf.
Hour of the Wolf.
All
right, we're gonna play that right now. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
God bless.
We'll see you next year.
Happy 2023.
me till I pray.